Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a quiet, vine-wrapped garden in the hills of rural Japan, where stone lanterns lean like old men and the mist clings to your ankles like silk. It's the kind of place where cicadas sing like they've seen too much, where every breeze through the bamboo feels just a little watched. You're back in your grandmother's house, and something in that overgrown garden shrine is still waiting, watching, remembering. Now this story isn't going to be one of those cheery bedtime romps. Nope. This one has shadows where your reflection should be footprints that don't lead anywhere, and a family ancestor who isn't quite ready to let go. And let's be honest, you probably won't survive this spiritually intact. But hey, at least your corpse will be culturally enriched. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far and wide we're haunting people. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive just past dusk. The last train groaned its way out of the rural station 20 minutes ago, leaving behind nothing but your suitcase wheels, dragging over cracked asphalt. No Wi-Fi, no rideshare, just one sleepy cab driver who asked if you were that woman's grandchild before nodding like he knew something he wouldn't say out loud. Classic. The house is exactly as you remember. 2 stories of groaning wood and paper doors that sigh when touched. But now the silence is heavier, almost curated, like someone left it that way just for you. The garden outside choked with wild grasses and bamboo runners, but the shrine at the far edge still stands clean. Too clean, white pebbles perfectly raked. A bowl of fruit that hasn't rotted, and incense still warm. You should be creeped out. You are. But nostalgia muddles things. You think about the summer you were 9, running around barefoot and getting yelled at for tracking mud into the tatami room. The same summer your grandmother warned you never to touch the shrine unless invited. You had laughed, until the night you swore someone whispered your name from that very stone path. You shake off the memory, drag your suitcase inside, and find the power still works. Barely. The lights flicker like they're afraid of commitment. The fridge hums like it's possessed. You boil some water mostly for the comfort of the sound and try to pretend the silence outside isn't listening. Funny thing about rural Japanese estates, many are layered. Not just physically with their creaky floors and paper walls, but spiritually. Your grandmother used to say, the house remembers its people, so be someone worth remembering. You never quite figured out if that was wisdom or a threat. And now walking past the back veranda, where her sandals still sit, as if she's just inside making tea, you feel it. That subtle shift in the air. The same shift museums use to preserve history. Dry, weighty, watching. You step onto the Ingawa, the wooden hallway that overlooks the garden, and gaze out. There's the shrine, still, small, boxy. It's made of cedar, roofed like a miniature temple. Most families have one in the countryside, a nod to ancestral worship. But this one always felt extra. Mainstream historians say Shinto shrines like this became common during the Edo period, where honoring kami or spirits was tied to keeping the household harmonious, not honoring them. Well, you didn't exactly get smited, but things started breaking, people got sick, and once, according to local gossip, a neighbor's house burned down. 3 days after letting their shrine fall into disrepair, you once asked your grandmother who the shrine honored. She only said the one who stayed when everyone else left. Great, cryptic ancestor lore. Every horror story's favorite seasoning. You finish your tea and unpack just enough to survive the night. Pajamas, phone charger, toothbrush. You're 80% sure wasn't already in use when you found it in the bathroom drawer. Then you settle into the futon in the corner room, the one that smells like cedar rice paper and just a whisper of mothballs, and close your eyes. But sleep doesn't come easy. Not with the moon pouring through the slatted blinds, casting lines across your arms like you're being measured. Not with the occasional rustle outside that sounds less like a raccoon and more like someone in tabby sandals trying not to be heard. At some point you drift, sort of. Your body sleeps, but your mind hovers, just above half dreaming. And in that half dream you see it, the shrine, not from outside, from inside it. You're cramped, kneeling like a statue posed mid-prayer. Your hands rest on your lap. You try to move them but can't. The world is wood and shadow and the sound of someone else breathing, just behind your left shoulder. And then you wake up. The house is quiet. The garden darker than it should be. You sit up, bones cracking like old floorboards, and walk to the veranda. And there across the stone path under the moonlight you see it. A bowl of fresh persimmons. Same bowl, new fruit. Okay, that wasn't there before. You consider calling a friend. But who do you even call about spontaneous shrine snacks? There's no haunted produce support line. Instead, you pull on your slippers, step into the cool night air, and approach. Each footstep crunches softly on the gravel. You whisper a hello, more out of politeness than belief, and crouch to examine the offering. The fruit is flawless, unblemished, still glistening with morning dew, except there hasn't been morning in hours. You glance around. The garden is empty. Bamboo sways like it's stretching after a nap. But no sign of a person, no footsteps but yours. Then you hear it, soft, almost shy, a laugh, childlike, giddy, distant, and not yours. You spin, scanning the garden, nothing, just mist curling over the grass. You back away slowly, eyes on the shrine, then turn and walk briskly, but not running because this is a ghost story, and you have some dignity back to the house. You lock the door, you relock the door, you jam a chair under the handle like you saw in that one horror movie. Not that it would stop anything spiritual, but hey, symbolism. As you slip under the covers, heart doing drum solos in your chest, you remind yourself this is probably fine. Probably just some local paying tribute. Probably just your brain making things dramatic. But in the hallway outside your room, the floor creaks twice, slow, measured, like someone bowing. And rising, you lie still, like a lizard pretending to be a rock. The kind of stillness where even blinking feels loud. Outside your thin sliding door, the hallway returns to silence. But it's the kind of silence that's waiting for a reply. Your fingers twitch beneath the blanket, instinctively tugging it over your head, even though you're well aware that no ghost in the history of haunted real estate has ever said, "Oh no, not." The blanket, guess I'll leave. Still, it's a comfort thing. The next morning creeps in too slowly. Pale sunlight smears itself across the paper screens, and the cicadas start their chainsaw chorus. Everything looks normal, boringly normal. No weird footprints, no incense trails spelling out, "Get out." Just the faint scent of persimmon still lingering in the air. That and the thinnest trace of camphor, your grandmother's favorite scent. You shuffle to the bathroom, splash cold water on your face, and tell yourself it was a dream, all of it. The shrine, the laugh, the too fresh fruit, just your jet-lagged, city-brained imagination. Right. Then you pass by the old hallway mirror. It's cracked in the corner, a spiderweb fracture that's been there since your childhood. But today, the glass warps just slightly. For a heartbeat, your reflection doesn't move. It just stares back, mouth parted, like it wants to say something but isn't allowed. And then it snaps back to normal. You stare. The mirror stares. Mutual mistrust established. You make breakfast. Instant miso rice from a packet, pickles that may or may not be older than your last relationship. And as you eat, your eyes keep drifting to the garden. The shrine, the path, the stone lanterns arranged like a crowd mid-whisper. You remember your grandmother used to leave offerings every day at dawn. Rice-sake sweets in the summer. It wasn't religious for her, more like etiquette. Like saying good morning to the air in case it was listening. And historically speaking, she wasn't far off. Japanese folklore is stuffed with yokai and kami spirits that occupy everything from rivers to trees to, yes, garden shrines. Some are benevolent, some are mischievous, and some, well, they watch. One particularly interesting ancestor spirit in local lore is the Zashiki Warashi, a child ghost that resides in homes and brings good fortune, so long as it's respected. Lose its favor and it leaves. And with it, your luck. Some claim they're spirits of children who once lived in the home. Others say they never were children at all. Just echoes wearing the face of innocence. Historians still argue whether the stories of these child spirits were cautionary tales to keep kids respectful of the household, or if they were based on actual ancestral worship that got cutified over time. Either way, there's a reason every region has a different version. You glance again at the shrine. Still there, still clean. You finish breakfast and decide to clear your head with some productive avoidance, aka rummaging through drawers, looking for anything that won't whisper at you. In the back room, you find a stack of old notebooks. Your grandmother's handwriting, precise and looping. Mostly shopping lists, medicinal herbs, and prayers written phonetically for rituals. But one page is dog-eared. You flip to it. A short entry written in careful red ink. She returned again today, smiling, never speaks, just watches. I left a sweet rice cake and a hair ribbon. She wore the ribbon the next morning. Oh, cool. A child ghost with a styling preference. You slam the notebook shut because your survival instincts, while late, have finally arrived. Midday brings a heat wave, the kind that wraps around your lungs and makes the cicadas scream even louder. You open the back door to let the air flow. Maybe the ghost will just evaporate from boredom. That's when you see it. A doll, perched right in front of the shrine. Small, porcelain, traditional kimono. Definitely wasn't there this morning. Its glassy eyes stare blankly ahead, and you swear the head is tilted just a fraction. Too far to one side, like it's listening for something behind you. You do not approach the doll. You may be curious, but you are not idiotic. Instead, you take a picture with your phone from a safe distance. Then you do what any rational modern adult would do. Send it to a group chat with the caption, "Am I being adopted by a ghost?" Responses range from 1010 cursed to name her. It'll help. You don't name her. You're not trying to make it official. Instead, you close the door, draw the blinds, and spend the next hour pretending your laptop hotspot works well enough to watch videos about cats falling off furniture. But the feeling doesn't go away. That sense of being studied, not maliciously, just intensely. Like someone trying to memorize your face in case they need to draw it later. You remember a story your grandmother told you about how in some regions, shrines aren't just for worship, they're invitations. Not to pray, to witness, to be acknowledged by something older than you and far more patient. "Don't bow unless you mean it," she said once, "because if you do, you've said yes." You realize you bowed last night. You also whispered hello. Great. You've ghost flirted. You spend the afternoon doing the only sensible thing left, cleaning. If this spirit is watching, you want it to know you respect the space, that you're just visiting, that you come in peace and mild panic. Sweeping the Ngawa, you hum a little tune, something familiar, a lullaby. It floats up from somewhere deep in your memory. Your grandmother used to sing it late at night when you had trouble sleeping. It's a haunting melody, almost circular, no beginning or end. And then, soft footsteps on gravel. You freeze. Slowly you turn your head. The doll is gone. Not moved, not shifted. Gone. The shrine is empty, the path undisturbed. Not even a trace of the hem of her kimono. Inside your chest, your heart taps Morse code run. You back into the house, slide the door closed, and latch it with fingers that definitely aren't shaking. Shut up, yes they are. But then you notice something. On the tatami mat near the door, a ribbon. Delicate, pale pink, the same one from the journal entry, and looped around it a single strand of black hair. Long, fine, childlike. Okay, definitely adopted. You do not scream. You almost scream, but instead, you settle for a sound that lands somewhere between a yelp and a swallowed cough. Then you take 2 cautious steps back, eyes glued to that ribbon, as though it might uncoil and lunge at you like an extremely passive-aggressive snake. It doesn't. It just lies there on the mat, looking suspiciously innocent, like a gift or a test, or both. So you do what every ancestor-fearing grandchild with a functioning nervous system would do. You pick it up. It's softer than you expect. Silk, maybe. The kind of ribbon you'd tie into the hair of a doll or a little girl getting ready for a summer festival. It smells faintly of jasmine, faintly of dust, and just the tiniest bit like the incense that still hangs in the corners of the shrine room, no matter how many windows you open. You carry it to your bedroom, lay it gently on your dresser, like it's made of spun glass, and you say aloud, quietly, respectfully, "Thank you." Because apparently this is the level of weird your life is at now. Out in the garden, the shadows stretch longer. Evening approaches with a golden hush. The cicadas fall silent. That's never a good sign in folklore. Quiet means something else is listening. You think about the doll, the hair, the offering. You wonder if your grandmother kept notes somewhere, a ghost hunting field journal, with tips like never accept a second rice ball or avoid eye contact with mirrors after sunset. You check again through the old notebooks now, flipping through pages with new urgency, and then tucked behind a stack of old tax receipts and a truly ancient horoscope calendar you find it, a box, small wooden, carved with a pattern of plum blossoms and maple leaves. A family crest, maybe. You unlatch it with care. Inside there's a photograph, sepia-toned, curled at the edges. It's your grandmother, much younger, standing beside the shrine, holding a child's hand. A little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Kimono patterned with swallows. Face slightly blurred, but something about her posture feels recent, familiar. You flip the photo over. One word written in ink, faded but legible. Say, a name. You whisper it aloud, not too loud, just enough to feel the shape of it on your tongue. And that's when the smell of jasmine intensifies. You turn. She's not there, of course, not fully, but the room has cooled. The corners look darker. The mirror near your dresser fogs slightly, like breath has touched the glass. You keep whispering, say, oh say, no answer. but the ribbon trembles just once softly, as if moved by the faintest breeze. Okay then, we're on a first-name basis now. You light a stick of incense, jasmine, because it feels right. The smoke curls upward like a question mark dancing in slow loops. You sit by the window, watching the shrine. The stone lanterns glow faintly as dusk deepens. The house creaks in that slow, thoughtful way. Old houses do, wood settling into memories. It's peaceful, too peaceful, which is when your phone buzzes. A message from your cousin Aya. You okay out there? Heard you're at Oba-chan's. Weird place, right? Ever meet her imaginary friend? You stare at the screen. Your thumbs hesitate. You reply, say. The typing bubbles flicker. Stop. Flicker again. Wait, you know the name, dude. That's who she used to talk to in the garden. Said she was her little sister, but Oba-chan never had siblings. She was an only child. Oh, good. Delightful. You type back slowly. Do you have any old family records? Aya responds a few minutes later with a photo of a worn family register. A dusty page, handwritten names, most of them scratched through with dates, births, deaths, relocations. Except for one. Say, no birth date, no death, just the name. A footnote scrawled in the margin, came in spring, left too soon, but not gone. Historians still argue whether these undocumented names in family records represent miscarried children, adopted siblings, or spirits. People believed became part of the household through spiritual encounters. There's little formal research, most of it passed down orally embroidered with superstition and layered meaning. You close the app and look out the window again. This time the doll is back, right at the edge of the veranda, placed with unnerving precision. But this one is different. It wears a new ribbon. Your ribbon, looped and tied in a soft bow beneath its porcelain chin. You don't scream. Again. You're getting pretty good at not screaming, actually. A real professional. Instead, you go outside, barefoot, slowly. The night air wraps around you like a shawl. Cool but not cold. The doll's eyes glitter faintly in the moonlight, catching just enough of your reflection to make you wonder who else is looking back. You kneel beside her, set a rice cracker on the step beside the shrine. Not as an offering, but as a hello. And then you say it again softly. See. The wind lifts. The wind chime above your head sings 3 delicate notes. Nothing else happens, except in the gravel path between you and the house, a single footprint. Small, bar, facing you, as though someone just stepped out of the shrine to greet you. Okay? You nod, respectfully. You back away, slowly, respectfully. You do not run. You do, however, mutter under your breath. Okay, say message received. You live here. I'm just crashing for a bit. And you swear the wind chime laughs. Sleep. Huh. That's hilarious. You spend the next several hours in a gentle but persistent state of dozing nervously, with one eye open the way you might if you were babysitting a velociraptor. Every creak of the house, every distant gust of wind, every slightly too happy cricket outside your window feels like it's part of some larger ghostly orchestration. And then comes the dream. If it's a dream, it's hard to tell. You're standing in the garden again. The night is soft padded with the kind of quiet that's thick enough to touch. The moon hangs too low, swollen and silver, making the stone path glow like a trail of glass bones. The shrine is lit from within. That's new. You walk toward it, your footsteps muffled. The air smells like lavender this time. The door is open just a sliver. Inside, a little girl sits with her back to you. Same ribbon, same kimono. Hair slightly too neat for a child. She's humming, off-key, It takes you a few seconds to realize she's humming your grandmother's favorite folk tune, the one she used to sing while making pickles. You try to speak. Your mouth moves, but your voice stays curled up somewhere in your chest like a scared cat. The girl stops humming. She turns her head, but not all the way, just enough for you to glimpse the faint shimmering blur of her face, like her features are still deciding what they want to be. And she says quite clearly, "You're in my seat." You jolt awake. Sheets tangled around your legs. Your phone says 3:12 a.m., classic ghost o'clock. You spend the next 2 hours watching fail videos and cat compilations until dawn. In the light of morning, it all seems less terrifying. Sort of. Maybe. The way a bear seems less scary from the safety of a really fast car. You head to the kitchen, rummage through ancient cabinets for coffee. That's when you find the box of your grandmother's old cassette tapes, labeled with neat handwriting little dates and topics like Spring Festival, 1982, and record of shrine cleaning. You pop one into the dusty player by the window. It clicks, hums, and then, March 25th, windy. Say liked the wind. She always laughed when it made the bell ring. I left her a new doll today. The last one faded too much. Shouldn't let her get bored. That's when she starts playing tricks. You pause the tape, play, rewind, play again. That voice definitely your grandmother. Calm, even cheerful. The way she might talk about a neighbor's kid. Not a spirit child haunting her garden shrine. You keep listening. She asked if the new girl would be staying long. I said I didn't know. She doesn't like surprises. Best to introduce them slowly. New girl. You fast forward. Static. Then more humming. Then... Historians still argue whether these spirits are echoes or just the parts of us we forget to bury. But she remembers. Always. Say never forgets a face. Okay, that's comforting. The tape ends with a loud clunk. You sit there for a moment, unsure whether to cry, run, or knit the ghost a sweater and beg for mercy. Later that day, you decide you're done pretending this is all normal. You head back to town to the little local museum where dusty scrolls and old festival masks go to retire. The curator is exactly the kind of tiny old woman who seems like she's survived every era since the invention of dirt. She peers at you over thick glasses and says, "Garden shrine. That the Wada house." You nod. Explain the dreams, the ribbon, the doll. She listens without blinking. Then she's awake again. Not what is this or how odd, just confirmation. You knew, huh? She nods. That shrine's been active for generations. Your great-grandmother saw her first. Some say she was a lost child. Others think she's older, maybe tied to the land, before your family built the house. You ask the logical follow-up. Why does she like dolls so much? The curator chuckles. Well, wouldn't you? If you were 6 forever and stuck in one garden. Fair. You spend hours there poring over her old map sketches and temple documents. You learn that family garden shrines were sometimes built on Yashiki sacred land meant to anchor ancestral spirits and keep them content. Most were symbolic, others less so. There's even a record of a local Miko, a shrine maiden, visiting the property in the 1930s to calm a restless daughter. No names, just symbols. But the date matches a doll you found in a box last week. Back at the house, dusk falls again. You go to the shrine. No games this time. You kneel, light the incense, place a new doll handmade, one you picked out yourself, and say aloud, I brought you something. The wind picks up. The bell chimes. Somewhere behind you, the cicadas fall silent again. And just for a moment, you feel a tiny hand slip into yours. Cool, gentle, gone before you can turn. But real, definitely real. Okay, so maybe you're roommates now. The thing about ghosts is they have very little respect for personal space. You try to get on with your life, or at least your extended sabbatical from real responsibility, but Say has other plans. She starts showing up. Not in full Victorian ghost child mode, thankfully. More like signs, soft, lingering cues. You wake up to find your socks sorted by color on the windowsill. A marble appears in your shoe. The kettle starts boiling when you think about tea. At first you assume it's your mind filling in blanks, imagination, too much caffeine, and maybe a few too many bedtime horror stories. But then you find the drawing. It's taped to the inside of the cupboard door in crayon. A stick figure you beside a much smaller one holding a balloon. Next to it, the shrine. There's a smiley face above both heads, and in the corner the sun has eyelashes. That's how you know it wasn't you. You leave a crayon in return tucked into the shrine's offering dish. The next day it's gone. Historically, children's spirits, especially those tied to homes or sacred places, are common in East Asian folklore. Some are playful, others less so. In Japan, the concept of zashiki warashi describes a spirit child who brings luck to a house, provided you treat them kindly. If you don't, well, they leave, and so does your fortune. But Say, she's not quite zashiki warashi. There's an edge to her, a watchfulness, the same feeling you get when you realize your cat has been staring at the same corner of the room for 45 minutes, and now you're too scared to go pee. One morning you wake to find all the family photos rearranged. The ones with your grandmother are moved to the center of the mantel. Everyone else shifted to the edge. You whisper, "Are you playing favorites?" There's a faint tapping sound from the hallway. You choose not to investigate. Excellent decision. By week 3, you start keeping a log. Every time something strange happens, you jot it down. Floating comb check. Singing from the attic check. Dried flowers at your bedroom door. Triple check. You share this with the curator. She nods like you've just handed her a recipe card. She's remembering you. That's good. Good. She doesn't forget the ones she likes. Cool. That's fine. Completely normal. Still, you want answers. Why this spirit? Why your family? Why the shrine? So you dig deeper. You spend your afternoons in the regional archives flipping through microfilm and ancient registers. You learn the Weda name traces back centuries possibly descended from a Shoya, a village headman who managed land and collected taxes during the Edo period. Local lore says he built the shrine not just to honor ancestors but to contain something that needed watching. Historians still argue whether shrines like yours were ever used for containment or if that's a modern horror trope. But the journal entries you find, dated 1864, describe a child of the wind with eyes like mirrors who was never born yet always there. Say, you start to wonder if she was ever truly alive. That night you find a book on Kami Shinto spirits. Most are aspects of nature, rivers, trees, ancestors. But some are born from emotion, from pain or longing. You read about Ubum spirits of mothers who died in childbirth and Kodama tree spirits who echo laughter from the forest. And then in a footnote so tiny, it looks like it's hiding from the main text you read about Moegami tender gods, sometimes appearing as children, who act as messengers or wardens of forgotten shrines. Now that sounds familiar. You return to the shrine with a new offering rice crackers, wrapped in the kind of colorful foil that would appeal to a 6-year-old or an ancient forest guardian pretending to be one. You sit beside the stone and talk, not out loud, just silently, the way you'd talk to a diary or a memory. You thank her for the crayon drawing. You ask if she's lonely. You say you're sorry if anyone ever stopped listening. The wind answers. It wraps around the shrine like a scarf and pulls your hair softly toward the garden gate, a direction you follow. Past the boundary stones, into the part of the yard that's mostly overgrown bamboo and spider webs. You step carefully, brushing aside vines, until you find it a stone slab half buried. No markings, just worn edges and a shallow indent where something might have once rested. A second shrine, or a grave. You kneel, brush away the moss, leave another cracker, and whisper, "Is this yours?" No voice answers, but you feel it. Warmth, a little pulse of calm that sinks into your fingertips and lingers behind your eyes. You don't dream that night. You just sleep, fully, deeply. It's the first time since arriving that you wake up without panic braided into your ribs. You almost miss it. Almost. But when you reach for your journal, the pen is already open. And inside is a drawing, this time 3 figures. You say, "And your grandmother," all smiling, under a tree that definitely doesn't exist in your garden. Yet, the thing about old gardens is that they rarely stick to the script. You think you know every corner, every knot of tree root, and patch of uneven moss, but then something shifts. A path opens. A vine creeps just a little too quickly. The bamboo rustles like it's passing on a secret you weren't supposed to hear. It starts with the tree. The one from Say's new drawing, the one that isn't supposed to be in your garden. You go out the next morning and there it is, not a full-grown tree, but a sapling pushing up through the ground just behind the main shrine. It's too straight, too cleanly placed to be random. Like someone measured the spot and said, "Right here, that's where it goes." You crouch beside it. The leaves are heart-shaped and silver on the underside, whispering when the wind catches them. You don't recognize the species, which is mildly concerning, because you've been identifying backyard flora since you were 8, and mildly obsessed with poisonous plants. You were a weird child. It's fine. There's no seed husk, no evidence of planting. You check your logbook. Nothing. No notes about a sapling. No entries from the last 2 days, even though you know you wrote something yesterday. Your handwriting's been replaced. Not erased, replaced. The lines are the same, but the script is rounder, childish. Today we made the tree. It's for coming back. Yeah, that's not yours. You show the page to the curator. She glances once and murmurs, "Say is preparing." For what you ask, way too casual, for someone who's now dealing with spectral horticulture. She doesn't answer. You try again with your uncle. He just says that tree's not for you. So helpful, so comforting. Historically, certain tree plantings marked the presence of a protective spirit. In Japan, Shinboku sacred trees were often tied with shimenawa ropes to indicate divine residence. These trees weren't planted randomly. They appeared where spirits settled, where gods descended, or where something needed guarding. Scholars still argue whether some of these shrines were placed after the spirit appeared, or if the tree grew because of the shrine itself. Cause and effect gets a little blurry when divinity is involved. What's clear is that the sapling in your garden doesn't belong to you, and it's growing fast. By the end of the week, it's waist high. Seiya's drawing starts showing it with blossoms, tiny ones like stars, though in reality it hasn't flowered. Yet, you begin to feel watched again. Not just the gentle nudge of Seiya's attention, but something more expansive, wider, like someone or something on the other side of the tree is leaning forward and breathing in. There are new sounds at night. Not footsteps, not whispers, more like humming, low, harmonic. like a choir buried under layers of soil. You don't go out after midnight anymore. You try not to anyway, but one night when sleep refuses to arrive and your fan starts spinning in reverse, seriously, you find yourself drawn back to the shrine. And the tree. There's moonlight pale and sharp like silver cutlery. The sapling sways without wind. You step closer, and that's when you see her, not Say. The other one, a woman, kneeling beside the sapling. Hair like ink. Kimono pale and stiff with age. Her face is not unkind, but it's blurred, like she's both here and not, like your eyes can't quite lock on. You freeze. She turns, and you hear the words not in your ears but in the back of your mind. Soft as breath against your thoughts. She's not waiting, she's remembering. And then she's gone. Just gone. You run back inside. Not your bravest moment. But when you finally calm down enough to check the logbook, there's a new note in Say's handwriting. She's happy you saw her. You write back. You're not sure how the notebook is doing two-way messaging now, but you don't ask questions. It's a haunted notebook. Haunted things rarely appreciate being interrogated. You just say, "Who is she?" No answer. The next day you find an old photograph in the garden shed, water-damaged and folded, tucked behind a rusted lantern. It shows a younger version of your grandmother standing beside a woman in traditional clothing. Same kimono, same blurred expression. Like the camera refused to pin her down? You take the photo to the curator. Her eyes soften. "Your great-grandmother," she says. "She died young. Some say she stayed to watch the child who came after." You blink. Say, "She needed someone." You process that. So Say was left behind, maybe not entirely by accident. You return to the shrine. This time you bring fresh water, new rice, a handful of wildflowers you picked carefully from the forest edge. You sit, and you say thank you out loud. It's not for show. It's not ritual. It's just gratitude. For the drawings, the memories, the tree, the impossible kindness of a child who exists somewhere between yesterday and myth. You think you feel the soil warm. Later, as you fall asleep, you hear a giggle outside your window. Not creepy. Okay, slightly creepy, but also kind of comforting, especially when you realize the giggle is followed by the sound of crayon scribbles. And in the morning, the sapling has blossomed, silver petals, glowing faintly. You don't touch them. You just watch and wonder what's coming next. You don't go out that night. You don't need to. The light from the silver blossoms spills across your floor, through the paper window, slats soft and oddly rhythmic like breathing. Not flickering like candlelight, not static like a lamp. It pulses, faintly, calmly, like the tree is dreaming. You lie there watching the glow crawl across your ceiling, thinking, not afraid exactly, but deeply aware that you are no longer alone in any traditional sense of the word. In the morning, the petals are still there, unfallen, unwilted. They seem immune to weather and time. You check your garden journal, your original one, the plain black book with the cracked spine, and it's returned to your handwriting. No new entries from Say. The last one is still, she's happy you saw her. And yet something feels different. That morning when you water the sapling, no. The tree now, you find something tucked at its base. A doll, hand-stitched clearly, old but lovingly maintained. It has a single bell stitched to its collar, a worn blue kimono, and wide, unblinking eyes. You recognize it. It sat for years on your grandmother's altar, always just out of reach. Now it's here, resting in the roots, gifted. You don't touch it. Later that day, you hear from your uncle. Not a call, not a text. He arrives in person carrying a lacquered box and a face that looks like he hasn't slept in days. "I need to show you something," he says. Inside the box scrolls, ink still vivid though cracked in places. One scroll in particular bears the family crest. The paper is thin but strong, handmade. A tree sketched across the center, annotated with names, some familiar, some forgotten. You point. "That's her," you say. "The one in the photo. The one who knelt by the sapling." Your uncle nods. "She was the last to speak with them." You blink. "Them." He unfolds another document. Not a scroll this time, a rubbing from a stone tablet. Once kept at a mountain shrine, now lost to fire. At its center, the name Say. No surname, just that. "She was known before she was born," he murmurs. "Revered, cursed, protected." You half laugh, half scoff. "That's dramatic," maybe, he says, "but that doll was hers." He means the one at the base of the tree. You stare out the window. It's still there, still watching. Later you look up the old word. Your uncle used yosei. Not quite ghost, not demon, not angel, just presence. A lingering soul with purpose. Sometimes inherited, sometimes bound. Historians still argue whether the term yosei came from Chinese Taoist practices or was a localized evolution of indigenous animist beliefs. Either way, it straddles the line between guardian and revenant, between ancestor and echo. You begin to wonder if Say ever left at all. The curator drops by uninvited, but somehow expected. She brings tea as usual and sits beside you under the eaves of the house, both of you watching the blossoms in a shared silence that feels older than speech. She's almost done remembering, she says, and sips. You tilt your head. "Then what?" The curator smiles, tired and gentle. "Then you'll have to decide what comes next." Your brain itches at the vagueness, but before you can press, she hands you a photograph, one you've never seen. It's the garden, this garden, but from decades ago. In the corner stands a girl with short hair and paint-streaked sleeves. Say, but older than any version you've met in drawings or footsteps. She holds a branch, blossoms just starting, and she's smiling. Not for the camera, but for someone standing beside her, just out of frame. On the back, "Remember with her." You blink. The photo is warm in your hands, like it's just been developed. You tuck it into your journal. That night, the doll is gone. The tree shimmers faintly under the moon, and Say draws again. On your mirror this time, using condensation from your shower. Her message appears slowly, letter by letter. "Meet me in the shrine, bring the old box." You do what any sensible person would do. You make tea, grab a flashlight, and put on the jacket with the deepest pockets. Not because you think you'll need protection more, because you've seen enough ghost movies to know better than to show up unprepared. The shrine feels alive. You set the lacquer box down carefully on the offering platform. The moment your fingers leave the lid, the air shifts. Not temperature, not wind, just presence. The petals drift upward, upward. Gravity forgets itself. You feel her before you see her. Say, not small, not giggling, not just a child, but tall now. Adolescent, clothed in shadow and moonlight. Her hair is long. Her eyes are older than time. And when she speaks, it echoes inside your bones. "I'm almost done." You swallow. With what? Being just one thing. You don't understand. You don't need to. She steps forward, touches the box. The lid lifts without human hands. Inside the scrolls, the photo. The doll has returned, nestled in a bed of blossoms. Say looks at you and smiles. You kept it safe. She steps back and vanishes. No fanfare, no lightning bolt, just absence. Like a chapter ending without a final period, you stay there alone with the moonlight and the blossoms and the box full of family secrets. And for the first time in days, it's quiet, really quiet. Even the garden seems to be holding its breath. You return to the house, you sleep, and in the morning, the tree is still there. The blossoms are gone, but something new has begun. You wake to an unfamiliar hush, one so deep and undisturbed it feels like snowfall. Though of course it's summer, and the air is warm, thick with the smell of damp earth and something sweeter. Not flowers this time, something baked. You pad barefoot into the kitchen, half expecting your grandmother at the stove, her apron streaked with flour, humming some old tune with no name. But the room is empty, save for a plate sitting on the counter, fresh mochi still warm. One bite missing. You check your phone. No calls, no messages, no notifications at all, actually, which is rare enough to make your skin prickle. Even the neighborhood dogs aren't barking. Back in the garden, the tree has changed again. The blossoms are gone, sure, but in their place fruit. Not just any fruit, delicate and silvery, like small plums dipped in frost. You don't touch them, not yet. Some things wait for permission. Instead, you return to the shrine. It's colder now somehow, or maybe just still. The box is still there, undisturbed, but beside it sits a letter, folded into the shape of a crane balanced on the edge of the offering table. You unfold it slowly, inside written in brushstroke calligraphy, barely legible. You are ready. There's no signature, but you know it's from her. You glance back at the house, suddenly aware of how old it really is. The wood beneath your feet groans in familiar rhythms, the same ones you heard at night as a child when you convinced yourself it was just the house settling. Only now you're not so sure. Maybe the house was always talking. You just hadn't learned to listen yet. You sit on the steps and open the box again. The scrolls lie neatly rolled. You pull one out, the one with the family crest, and begin to read. Not for names this time, but for the rhythm. For the story. You learn that your grandmother had a sister, not by blood, but by spirit. A girl she found in the garden one summer, crying beside the shrine, who never gave a last name and only spoke in riddles. Your grandmother took her in, fed her, hid her. Her name was Say, and according to the scroll, she never aged. One year she vanished into the tree, which now grows in your garden. Historians still argue whether the practice of human offering at nature shrines was ever truly voluntary, or if it emerged from fear and folklore intertwined too tightly to untangle. Some claim it was a metaphor becoming one with the land. Others whisper of real disappearances, of names scratched into shrine stones that never matched any census. You set the scroll aside and return to the garden. The fruit gleams under the rising sun. The doll has vanished again. The bell from its collar hangs alone on a low branch, swaying despite the still air. You pluck it gently and tuck it into your pocket. That evening you receive mail. Not a letter, an entire box, shipped from a university archive. Your application for the family research grant was accepted months ago, and you'd forgotten. Inside, documents on ancestral rituals in isolated villages. Most are yellowed and fragile. One is a diary, untitled, undated. You flip it open and read the first line. I was born in silence. The handwriting isn't familiar, not at first. But by the third page, you know, it's Say, describing visions of people not yet born, describing you and your garden, and a night when the blossoms would fall upward. You close the diary. It smells faintly of incense and cedar. The curator calls. No greeting, just, are you dreaming yet? You pause. Maybe. She exhales. Good, that's the next part. She hangs up. That night your dreams are vivid. You walk through the garden, but the tree is gone. In its place a pond, smooth mirror-like. Floating in the center, the bell, the doll, and a photograph. Not one you've seen before. You wake up holding it. It shows a young woman holding a baby in front of the tree. The child has your eyes. You don't remember this photo being taken. You don't remember having children. You look closer. The woman is you, just a little older. You don't panic. You simply accept. Some timelines bleed into each other like watercolor. That day you hear music, not from the house, not from a speaker, from the shrine. You follow it slow and barefoot again, sitting at the steps playing a wooden flute. A girl with short hair and paint on her sleeves. Say again, but content now, solid. She smiles at you and fades with the music. You sit in her place. Let the sun slide over your shoulders and close your eyes. The shrine breathes around you, and for the first time you feel it breathing with you. Not separate, not haunted. Home. Later you find the curator waiting at your gate. She hands you a key. Your grandmother left it for the next one. The next what? She just smiles. You'll see. Then she's gone. You hold the key. Look at the tree. And understand. The bell in your pocket chimes one soft and high and hollow. Like goodbye, like beginning. The key is unlike any you've seen before, worn smooth by years of use, etched with delicate markings in a language that feels both ancient and oddly familiar. The metal hums slightly in your palm, as if it's been waiting for you longer than you've been alive. You roll it between your fingers, feeling the weight of all the hands it must have passed, through generations condensed into a sliver of brass. There's no door it obviously fits, not in the house, not in the garden, not even in the little cabinet where your grandmother used to keep her ceremonial tea, set the one no one was ever allowed to touch, except during Oban. But something about the key makes you restless. You pace the house, listening closely, half expecting a door to creak open all on its own. It takes you until nightfall to remember the shed. You've never had reason to go inside. It's just a place for rakes and old nets, and that one stack of unlabeled boxes your uncle swore he'd sort through someday. You try the latch. It clicks. The key slides in easily, like it's been home all along. The shed door groans open. You brace yourself for the scent of mildew and rust, but instead it smells like sandalwood and aged paper. You flick the light switch. Nothing, so flashlight it is. You sweep the beam slowly across the room, expecting to find garden tools and broken pots, and sure those are there. But so are things that shouldn't be, like a low shelf of scrolls wrapped in silk, a rusted ceremonial mask, and a faded photograph pinned to the inside of the door. You step closer. The photograph shows a group of women in yukata seated around a fire, under the tree in your garden. One of them is unmistakably your grandmother. Another is Sei. They're smiling, but not at the camera, at something beyond the frame. You glance behind you. Just shadows. You move deeper into the shed. In the corner, half concealed by a draped sheet, sits a trunk. Carved wood, lacquered black. With your family crest on the lid, you lift it open. Inside letters, hundreds of them, bound in stacks sorted by name. Your name is one of them. But they're not from you. They're to you. You open the top envelope. The handwriting is unfamiliar but flowing gentle. The date reads 1911. My dearest descendant, I hope the tree still blooms. The letter goes on to describe rituals you've only seen, hinted at gatherings under the full moon, offerings of rice wine and water lilies, the passing of knowledge from ancestor to ancestor, not just through blood, but through memory. Some of us return, the letter says, not as ghosts, but as echoes, to make sure the roots are strong. You shiver. It's a comforting kind of fear, like standing at the edge of something impossibly vast, but knowing you won't fall. Historians still argue whether ancestor veneration in rural Japan was ever more than symbolic, whether the tales of spirits who guide their bloodlines were metaphors for inner wisdom or something older, deeper, and less easily explained. Either way, here you are, sitting cross-legged in a shed reading letters written for a version of you that only just arrived. You gather the stack with your name and bring it back inside. Later that night, as the cicadas drone lazily in the trees, you sit beneath the garden's shrine and read. Each letter offers a little more. There's one from a boy who died in the war, writing about a dream of this garden. One from a woman who left for Tokyo and never came back, but promised she'd still visit the tree in her sleep. And one from your grandmother, written when she was only 12. I hope I get to meet you, she says. I hope the tree still listens. You run your hand over the grain of the paper. The doll appears again that night, this time on the shrine steps, but she's not alone. Sitting beside her is a man with kind eyes, long sleeves, and the look of someone who's seen every version of this moment and still finds it beautiful. He looks at you, nods, then vanishes along with the doll, leaving only the bell behind. It doesn't chime this time, just rests waiting. You place it on the shrine alongside the key and bow without quite knowing why. The next morning, the curator calls again. I assume you've found the shed. I did. Then you're ready for the lantern. What lantern? A pause. You'll know when it flickers. The line goes dead. You spend the day reading more letters. Some are in dialects you can barely parse. One is written phonetically, probably by a child. Others are riddled with poems, drawings of the tree diagrams, of the shrine you've never seen before, suggesting it used to be twice as large with a second gate. One even includes pressed flowers from an extinct species. It's like time pooled here, like every version of your family folded themselves into this little pocket of the world and waited for someone to notice. That night, as you wash your face, the bathroom light flickers once. You freeze, then laugh. Because of course it wouldn't be a glowing lantern. That'd be too easy, too theatrical. Instead, it's the old garden lantern, the stone one tucked just behind the tree. And it's never worked in your lifetime. But tonight, a soft gold glow pulses from within. You don't even put shoes on. You just go, barefoot through dewy grass. The light is steady now. No flame, no cord, just presence. You sit beside it and close your eyes. And for the first time in your life, you hear your grandmother's voice, not in memory, but in song, humming. The same tune she used to hum in the kitchen, but it's coming from the tree. You hum along, and the light doesn't fade. It grows. You sit there for a long time wrapped in gold and green, as if the whole garden is breathing with you, exhaling memories, inhaling stillness. The lantern glows steadily, casting delicate shadows across the grass that stretch and dance without a source. Somewhere in the branches above, a cicada buzzes a low, steady rhythm. You hum the lullaby again, this time without hesitation, and the tree hums with you. Then, just past midnight, the air cools. Not a wind, not a breeze. More like a sigh from something older than the soil you're sitting on. The lantern flickers. You blink and someone is standing at the edge of the garden. It's her, the ancestor from the photograph, the one standing next to your grandmother. The one you've seen in dreams and maybe glimpsed in the corner of your eye when the house creaked late at night. She doesn't move closer, doesn't need to. She nods, like she's been waiting for this moment to settle into place. You nod back, and the lantern dims. Historians still argue whether certain shrines in Japan served as mere ritual sites or actual gateways, thin places. Some called them where the membrane between worlds fluttered just enough to let things pass. Not demons, not gods, just memory made thick enough to touch. You think this garden might be one of those places. The next morning you wake to find the lantern cool again. The bell is still on the shrine step unmoved. The key rests where you left it, but the shed locked. You try the door 3 times, nothing. And the key, nowhere. Instead, there's a letter waiting on your bedside table, unopened, unaddressed, but you know it's for you. You break the seal with trembling fingers. Remember the silence it begins. Not just the noise of memory, but the quiet that held us all. You read it twice, then tuck it into your jacket pocket and head outside. The garden feels ordinary again. The sun is brighter, the leaves less secretive. And yet you feel different, like the roots of that tree have twined themselves around your bones. Like every footstep you take is part of a longer path someone else already walked. You leave offerings that day, a little rice, a tiny cup of tea, a folded crane. When you return inside, there's a new photo on the hallway table. You don't remember placing it there. In it, you're asleep beneath the tree. The lantern glows beside you, and just behind your shoulder, if you squint, you can make out a faint figure. Smiling. Weeks pass, then months. You go home eventually, but something tugs you back to the shrine more often than you'd expect. And each time, the garden welcomes you. Not with fanfare, not even with birdsong, but with presence. You start to learn more about your family, digging into archives, reading scrolls. You even find your great-grandmother's name in a local shrine registry with the cryptic note "keeps the light between." No one at the Historical Society knows what it means, but they let you photograph it. You hang the picture above your desk. One afternoon back in the city, you light incense out of habit, and the flame flickers sideways, not up, not down, but toward the window. You open it, and far below, across the distant skyline, the clouds shift just enough for a single sunbeam to pierce the rooftops, illuminating a garden you can't possibly see from here. But you know it's there. You feel it. Roots don't forget. Branches always reach back, even when no one's watching, even when the garden shrine stands silent for decades, even when your grandmother's songs fall out of tune. The echo remains. The child who watched from the corner of the tree. She's no longer alone. She never was. Because here's the thing the letters didn't quite say. When you see someone watching from the shadows of your memory, they might not be a ghost. They might be family, waiting, hoping you'll look back. You do, and the tree blooms again. You can almost hear Say giggle. A soft wind rustles the branches overhead, and just before you turn to go one final flicker from the lantern, not a goodbye, just a whisper. We're still here, and we always will be. Now let's take one last breath together. The story rests, the garden is still, and the lantern's glow fades gently into memory. Let your shoulders drop. Let the echoes fall silent, softening into warmth that settles behind your ribs. Like the last note of a lullaby you've always known, the tree continues to sway, slow and steady. Its blossoms drift downward, not in a rush, but like they've got all the time in the world. That same patience, the kind that waits through centuries, through seasons, through silences, cradles you now. You're safe here. The shrine no longer watches. It simply observes. Quiet content complete. Your breath is steady, your heartbeat calm. No shadows move without your permission. No memory knocks that you don't wish to open. And though the world may keep turning, and tomorrow will arrive, as it always does tonight right now, this stillness belongs to you. The ancestor steps back into her place. The bell rests, the light folds inward, and you sleep knowing that you are part of something wider, deeper, older than any one lifetime. Something that watches only with love. Sleep well, traveler. We'll see you again beneath the tree. End of script. Sweet dreams.